Hello, we are going to be reviewing the banners of version 2.2, the first phase. All I'm going to be talking about is the 4 stars and how these 4 stars are good for your account, as well as how good they are in the context of their banner, which is how well do they work with the main 5 star of the banner, and in general, just how good they are for your account. So let's get first into her first rerun, Xueyi. Xueyi is a quantum DPS hyper carry. You could use her as a sub DPS. I've used that before. What Xueyi does is that she is a break crit hybrid character, meaning that she does a decent amount of damage on her entanglements and a decent amount of her damage on crit. She's very even on those two parts of her damage, and she has a talent which stacks to the amount of toughness that she shreds, and if there isn't any quantum weakness on the field, her damage drops off significantly. Even if she can ignore toughness on her ultimate, she really does need quantum weakness. If we look at her eidolons, her eidolon is actually pretty impactful, most notably E4 and E6. E1 is pretty negligible, E2 is a small quality of life, E4 is a pretty big stat boost actually, it's 40% break effect for 2 turns. Her E6 is her best eidolon in general, as it does add MVs to her, especially if you run her with Ruanmei. This is a very impactful eidolon. So does having Xueyi in the banner really help out Robin? Not really. Xueyi is kind of stuck with 3 characters, which is Sparkle, Silverwolf, or Ruanmei, and if you have to sacrifice one of those, Robin isn't going to be on the team. It's not that Robin is going to be bad with Xueyi, it's just that those 3 characters that I mentioned, Sparkle, Silverwolf, and Ruanmei, generally just are a lot more useful for Xueyi teams than Robin herself. Xueyi is a pretty selfish character, meaning if there isn't a party member that's really contributing to what damage that she does, she just doesn't really want them on the team. Topaz doesn't really want Xueyi, especially because Dr. Ratio is free, and she pretty much prefers Dr. Ratio anytime over Xueyi in most of her teams. And Xueyi doesn't really get buffed much from Nami either, because she's more focused on attack buffs instead of damage percent buff. She has too much of it, so yeah, it's fine, but not really something that I would look forward to. Overall, Xueyi is a character that you just really have to focus your pulls around, just like any hyper carry, except she's a 4 star and she gets really hurt a lot by elemental matchups that don't favor her compared to other hyper carries and 5 stars. So typically I just wouldn't recommend Xueyi unless you plan to really invest on her and you already have the characters that can make her work. Next is Hanya. Hanya is an SP generator, and by that I mean she puts a skill on and this skill lands a quote-unquote debuff. It's not actually counted as a debuff for, Dr. Ratio or anything, but she lands a sort of mark on the enemy, and if a party member attacks this opponent with a mark, they gain a skill point every other time that they do it, so they need to attack 2 times to get 1 SP. Up to 2 SP, then Hanya needs to regenerate it again with her skill. So she's pretty much plus 1 SP forever in her rotations. If we're gonna look at her eidolon, she doesn't actually get that much. She gets a nice speed bump, I guess. She gains an extension on her ult buff, which actually in practice doesn't matter that much because of buff extension and stuff like that. And her E6 is a very minor damage boost. The good part about this is that Hanya is valuable at E0 and doesn't need her eidolons to function in the team compared to her sister. So as long as you get 1 Hanya, you're already good, and some extra eidolons are just nice bonuses. Now let's talk about the 5 stars with her, Robin and Hanya. This is actually a good support core, because Robin with her ultimate, her main problems with her ultimate is that she does not generate SP because she just cannot get it while her ultimate is active. Hanya, of course, is a character that generates SP when using her skill. To add to that, Hanya is attacking the character while using her skill, so Robin can trigger her additional damage of it. On top of that, Hanya also gives a speed buff, allowing the party to get more turns to abuse Robin's ultimate additional damage, which is very, very good. So if you're getting Robin and you get extra Hanyas, it's just a win for you all around. If you're going for Topaz, Hanya is actually pretty good too, because Topaz fits well with double DPS comps, which are teams that generally want more SP, and Hanya gives it to them. And Hanya's attack and speed buff is also pretty nice on the follow-up teams that Topaz has. Overall, no matter who you're going for, either it's Topaz, either it's Robin, extra Hanyas can actually be a good upgrade for your account. That's nice. Lastly, it's March 7th. The fact that we just got Aventurine recently doesn't really give March very good favors. March is a shielder, just 1 shield at a time though, and she gives aggro to shielded targets, and she counters if a shielded target is hit. In endgame actually, her best build is a freeze bot, which fully relies on her ultimate just freezing enemies, which allows you to gain more time to shield your characters for the next wave of attack. That's pretty much her strongest way to sustain, but it's not available all the time because freeze resist is a thing, which goes into her eidolons, which actually makes her a better shielder, but not actually a better freezer, and that's pretty much her best build. And if you just look at her eidolons and just look at the character herself, she's actually much better than people give her credit for. But still, if you really want a sustained character, 5-star limiteds are just much better. And if you can't pull for a limited sustain because you just don't have jades, just build your Lynx or just build your Natasha. Either one actually works well with endgame content, and it's better than running March that isn't freezer. Honestly, it just I wouldn't really recommend March pulling in any sort of banner. Sorry. In context to the banner characters though, she works well with Robin, I guess, because Robin kind of wants follow-ups to trigger her additional damage, so that's something, I guess. But in most cases, you'd rather just take a stronger sustained character than adding a bit more additional damage. Like really, I'm not kidding. March is probably the most stressful preservation character to run, and if you're just not a fan of that, I really wouldn't look forward to building her at all. Same advice with Topaz. I really wouldn't pull March 7 just for Topaz. Even though the synergy is there, March just doesn't do enough sustain comfortably to really want it. Like, I would still run Fushuan over March 7th even though she doesn't have a follow-up. Does that make sense? Good. For the character banners, if you're planning to really go all in on Xueyi, pull the 5 stars that she wants, pull the supports that she wants, then Xueyi is a pretty good pull for you because her eidolons are very impactful. If you want to get something from the 4 stars for your Robin or Topaz, Hanya is actually very good for both of them and is a very good budget option in general for most teams. She's very good even at E0, and the bunch of eidolons that you might get from this banner are pretty nice bonuses. She doesn't need them, but they're nice to have. I wouldn't pull March in general because she's just too stressful to run, and if you really want to sustain, we already have free Natashas and Lynx, and both of them are generally less stressful than March. I'll be honest, they're easier to build too. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I wouldn't recommend March eidolons here at all. Now we move on to the light cones. First of all, we get a new 4-star, which is a Boundless Choreo. This is a pretty good light cone actually, and it's pretty dependent on if you have Acheron or not, and if you have Good Night Sleeper or not. And if you have Good Night Sleeper and Acheron, you pretty much want enough super impositions of this to outmatch your Good Night Sleeper. So if you have a Good Night Sleeper S5, then getting Boundless Choreo S5 generally won't be that worth it, honestly. But if you don't have Good Night Sleeper, then get this light cone, I guess. It's a 4-star though, so you can't guarantee it, so do be careful with that. But if we're objectively going to look at it, Boundless Choreo is her new 4-star best in slot. Swordplay is a hunt light cone, and it's good for a bunch of characters actually that focus their playstyle on just burning one enemy and not switching targets for a long time. So characters like Su Shang actually work well with this. Boot Hill actually works well with this, but if you're pulling for Boot Hill light cones, just pull for the Boot Hill light cone instead of this. Like, why are you pulling right now on this banner to get sword plays? But yeah, the problem with the Swordplay though is that there's a better free-to-play option, which is Stellar Cruise for most characters. So unless you don't have that S5, then I guess you can go for sword plays. I mean, that's nice, but generally it won't be better than, you know, the simulated universe light cone. So there you go. The last 4-star light cone on phase 1 is Perfect Timing, and Perfect Timing is a healer light cone. It works well with Gallagher, even though Gallagher already has a good, you know, free-to-play option, the Forgotten Hall light cone. If you actually played to the Aurum Alley event, you already have a free 4-star light cone with free super impositions that is fairly good too. While this light cone is nice, getting it to high super impositions may not be something that you want to look forward to. And I would here's the problem: every healer light cone has to be compared to multiplication. This is not my rules. I did not make those rules. It's just it is what it is, okay? And I wouldn't pull this light cone if I already have a multiplication S5, which I assume 90% of people do. So no, I would not recommend Perfect Timing at all. So that's all, and I'll see you later. Happy pulling, bye bye.